Good morning. Why am I coming to you now from dawn's early light? It is a little after 6 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, June 14th to be exact. Today is the first day of my summer break. Okay, yesterday was the last day for us teachers. Why on earth am I already outside at 6 a.m.? The reason why, it's going to be 100+ degrees today. Heat index somewhere between 110, 115. If there's anything that I need to do today, it needs to be done before it gets hot. One of the things that you need to always remember in this kind of heat is making sure that you stay hydrated. Got my own water bottle right here. Your garden needs to make sure it has some water too. And I want to talk a little bit about that today because today is a perfect time to talk about how do you handle watering for your garden. Now, disclaimer, I ain't an expert. If you've watched this channel, any of my previous videos, if you've watched the intro to this channel, you know that I know nothing. I am creating a lab here. I'm trying to learn how to be able to do this on a large scale by starting small, making small mistakes so I can eventually do this on a large scale. And I already know some mistakes that I have made this growing season. Here's what I have done to help my garden prepare for today. Again, it's Tuesday, June 14th. It's supposed to be 100+ today. Yesterday, June 13th, I think it got up to 98 degrees. Sunday evening, the night before, I spent about 2 hours making sure that everything was good and deeply watered. I watered every plant to the equivalent of about 1.5 to 2 inches of water. Was not able to get everything done in that time period. That took me over almost 2 hours because along the way I was realizing, oh, here's another zucchini that I missed. Speaking of zucchini, this is a squirrel attention span moment. Look how big those things are. Oh my gosh, those things were ginormous, which is blessing and bane. Maybe we'll talk about that in this video. But anywho, I spent 2 hours watering Sunday night and didn't get everything watered. So before I went to school yesterday, I was out here at actually even earlier yesterday morning to water the last couple of rows of things that didn't get watered to make sure it was good and deeply watered. Here's why it was important that I did it the night before, or at least early in the morning. I want that water to have time to soak into the soil, to get to my roots. I don't want it to, once the sun hits it, I don't want it to evaporate, which is why I always water in the evenings in the summertime. Well, I do it in the springtime too, but I choose to water in the evenings so the water can soak into the soil and not get evaporated by the heat of the sun. The other thing that I've done to help protect my plants from the heat is all of this mulch that I put around them. Now, here, this lettuce, I need to remulch. That's getting kind of washed away. But all these oak leaves that I've got in here, part of their purpose is to keep what little bit of sunlight was filtering through the weed cloth. I've mentioned that in a previous video because the weeds are still growing underneath the weed cloth. The other thing that the mulch does is it helps to keep the moisture around the plants, which is where I'm on it. I don't want the moisture for my garden to be part of the evaporation aspect of the water cycle that you learned about in middle school science. Let's talk about some mistakes that I may have made and this whole lab experience that I have here. I've always watered in the past in previous gardens. Again, if you've never watched any of my other videos, this is the first garden I've had in about 7 or 8 years. So a lot of stuff I wanted to relearn, wanted to do some things differently. But back in those days, unless we had rain that particular day, I watered every evening. And for the most part that worked, and I watered lightly, I would say, each one of those times. I wanted to do it right. I knew I can't get out here and water it heavily every day. It's expensive for the water bill. Yes, we've got a rain barrel that I've got to set back up. And as I began to think about doing this on a larger scale, I was like, I really need to understand when to water, how much to water. Everything I was coming across on the internet, which is the source of all knowledge, just kidding, it's not the source of all knowledge. And that's the problem. The internet thinks it's the source of all knowledge. But this channel isn't about that kind of stuff. Anywho, everything that I had read, everyone I had talked to, everyone I had watched, talked about somewhere between 1 to 2 inches of water a week. And they also emphasized to do it, not every day for those cumulative totals, but, periodically throughout the week, because it enables your root systems of your plants to dig deeper and to become healthier. So, bought a rain gauge so I could keep track of the natural rains. April and May were great in terms of rain for us here in this part of North Carolina and keeping the garden hydrated. And I was watering probably twice a week based on the amounts of rain that we had, trying to get to that total of 2 inches. I think, however, I wasn't really paying attention to how warm it was getting and the fact that I needed to possibly increase the frequency of the watering, especially now that the plants are established and should have good root systems. They were needing more frequent drinks versus, a couple of really big drinks. I think that's why I'm having some of the problems that I'm having with my tomatoes. Why am I telling you that? That's my lab report. That's why I'm telling you that. The other reason I'm telling you that is because I'm facing a decision this morning, a little bit after 6 o'clock, knowing it's going to get above 100 degrees today. These haven't been watered in 36 hours. Should I give them a quick drink this morning before it gets hot? I stuck my finger in the soil, trying to do what they call the sticky finger test. My finger didn't come out wet. I wouldn't say it came out sticky, but it didn't come out bone dry either. As much as I hate to do it, I'm not going to water today. I'm going to fight the urge and go blab. Let's just see what happens. I will wait and water it this evening after supper as the sun gets below the trees, and the temperature will still be in the 80s from what I've seen and read in terms of a forecast. Tomorrow's temperatures are not supposed to break 100, but the heat index is supposed to be around 100. So I will water again tonight, a good deep 2-inch, somewhere between a 1 and a 2-inch watering, so that tomorrow everything will be good. Let's talk about how you know when you've watered 1 inch or 2 inch. I've always heard that. I always said, oh, we got an inch of rain. And I've always wondered, what does that mean, an inch of rain? And somebody says, well, just stick a bucket out there and see how much collects in that bucket. But I've always just sort of wondered, but does it matter what size container that stuff is collected in? Because I would think it'd be easier to collect an inch of rain in, say, a tuna can that's this big around versus a 55-gallon bucket. I mean, it takes more water to do that. Apparently that doesn't really make any difference if you read the internet, the supposed source of all knowledge. Because a lot of people will tell you, here's how you can figure out how much water your lawn's getting from your sprinkler system or the rain, is you stick that container out. Apparently it all comes out even based on the size of the container. I know that my rain gauge over there looks like a test tube. It's only about, I don't know, that big around, and I'm trusting it. Okay, so we'll go, that's fine. Use whatever container you want. But what if you're using a water hose and a regular spray nozzle to water your garden? How do you know when that is an inch, a half an inch, 3 inches of water? that you've given your plant. You're gonna have to do math. Now math is something I'm supposed to be good at. I am a high school math teacher. I do okay most of the time. 1 inch of rain equals 1 inch of rain on 1 square foot of space. I'm gonna put all the fancy math down here on the bottom. 1 square foot of space is 1 inch deep. That's 144 cubic inches. We need to convert that 144 cubic inches to gallons so I know how much water in the bucket to represent. That 144 cubic inches is about 5/8 of a gallon. 0.62345, I think it is exactly. That's how much an inch of water is. Still haven't figured out how that's going to help me if I'm using a spray nozzle to water my garden. Because I could pour it into a bucket, but you can't just pour the bucket full onto your plant. It's not going to soak in. Here's what I had to do. Just using ordinary spray nozzle. Here's our bucket. We know that 1 inch is about, it's just a little more than half a gallon. This mark in my bucket is half gallon, so just a little bit above that. And I'm just gonna run my sprayer here at about the pressure that I think that I would do it if I was watering the garden in the evenings. Now, is this going to be consistent? Is this going to be perfect? No, it's not. But I just sort of do this and I sort of mark. Okay, that looks like that's about 0.62 gallons. Set your timer when you begin. Stop your timer when you reach that point. And then you know, all right, so if I want to get an inch of water on this surface, then this is how long I'll squeeze this nozzle. It's not perfect, but I think it has worked. It's getting late in the morning. It's going to get over 100 today. The sun is almost over these trees, so I'm going to be in sun here pretty soon. Need to wrap some things up here. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, please do me a favor. Go down below and give it a thumbs up. Maybe even share it with somebody. If you want to keep up with this journey as I try to turn this place into a suburban homestead and see what I learn and don't learn, possibly be entertained in the process, why don't you go ahead and subscribe so you can keep up with everything that's happening. Above all else, always remember, the one who created you made you able to create also. So get out there and make it, grow it, and live it. It's not boned. Ooh, what just happened? Okay, I don't know how that's going to look. Something weird just happened to on the screen. I don't like the way that phrase, so we're going to take that out. Where you just want to be entertained with my mistakes and quit being so self-deprecating.